Here they are, the top 10 golf jokes. Number 10. A few buddies were out on the golf course playing around when suddenly a beautiful woman went sprinting through the fairway. About halfway across, she began to disrobe until finally all that remained was the birthday suit. She continued sprinting along the course. The guys saw a bunch of men in lab coats chasing after her. They decided this is way more entertaining than golf, and they decided to follow the action. As they made their way toward the 15th fairway, they saw a guy running along carrying 2 buckets of sand. They stopped him and said, "Hey, buddy, what in the world is going on? Who is that lady?" "Oh, yeah, sorry. She's a patient we're treating at the institute next door to the golf course. You see, she's an nymphomaniac, and she escapes quite a bit. She'll ravish any man who catches her." Okay, said the golfers. "So, if you're trying to catch her, why are you carrying 2 buckets of sand?" "Oh, yeah, that. Well, I caught her last time, and the other fellas said it'd only be fair to slow me down this time." Number 9. There was a husband and wife, and they were playing a round of golf. They get to a par 5, and he hooks his tee shot right behind a small storage shed. He decides he's going to take a drop, but his wife says, "No, just open both doors and hit a low 2-iron right through there. It'll get you right up next to the green." So he opens both doors, lines up, and rips it. Well, the ball bounces off the side of the shed, comes directly back at him, and pings right off his wife's forehead. She drops dead right on the spot. A couple of months later, he's playing with a buddy on the same course. They get to the par 5, and sure enough, same result. He gets ready to take a drop, and his buddy gives him the same advice his wife did. He looks at his buddy and says, "No, I think I'll take the drop, man." His buddy asks him why. He says, "Well, a few months ago, I was in the same spot and I tried to hit it through the doors." His buddy says, "Yeah? And?" "Well, ended up shooting a 9 on the hole." Number 8. Bob and 3 of his golf buddies were out playing around when they were just starting on the back 9, and Bob paused, looked down the fairway, and began to sob uncontrollably. The other 3 gathered around him and asked, "Hey, what's wrong?" Bob looked down at his feet, sniffed, and dried his eyes a little. He apologized for his emotional outburst. "I'm sorry. I always get emotional at this hole. Holds very difficult memories for me." And one of his buddies says, "What happened? What could have got you so upset?" Bob stared silently off into the distance and then said in a low voice, "Well, this is where my wife and I were playing 12 years ago when she suddenly dropped dead right on this very hole." "Oh my God," the other golfer said. "That must have been horrible." "Horrible? You think it's horrible?" Bob said. "It's worse than that. Every hole for the rest of the day, all the way back to the clubhouse, it was hit the ball, drag Alice, hit the ball, drag Alice." Number 7. An older man lands a hot date with a younger woman. He decides to take her golfing for their first date, and she loves to golf, so it's a perfect match. While they're about to chip onto the green, the man sees a funeral procession coming down the road. Well, he takes off his cap and closes his eyes and bows his head in prayer. Well, the woman says, "Wow, that's the most thoughtful and touching thing I've ever seen. You really are a kind man." Well, the old guy replies, "Yeah, well, it's the least I could do. We were married for 35 years. Number 6. There were 3 guys, a teenager, his father, and the grandfather, go out to play a round of golf. Just before the sun was ready to tee off, a fine-looking woman walks up carrying her clubs. She says her partner didn't show up and asks if she can join them. The guys say, sure, since she is quite a beautiful woman. The lady turns to the three of them and says, now listen, I don't care what the three of you do while we're out there. You can cuss, you can chew, you can spit, fart, whatever. Just don't try to coach me on my game. The guys say, all right, sounds fair. You want to tee off first? Sure, she says. So all eyes are on her as she leans down to place the ball on the tee, and her skirt starts to ride up. Well, she then proceeds to knock the heck out of the ball right down the middle of the fairway. She starts beating these guys on every hole. They get to the 18th, and she's got a 12-foot putt for par. Turns around and says, you guys have done such a great job on not trying to coach me on my game. I've never shot even par before. I'm going to ask for your opinion on this putt. Now, if any of your opinions help me make the putt, I'll give that guy a night he'll never forget. The guys think, what a deal. So the kid walks over, eyes up the putt for a couple of minutes, and finally says, lady, aim that putt 6 inches to the right of the hole. Ball's gonna break and drop right in the cup. Father walks up and says, don't listen to that, youngster. Aim 12 inches to the right of the hole. That ball's gonna break and drop right in the cup. Grandpa looks at both of them in disgust, walks over, picks up the ball, drops it right in the cup. Lady, that's a gimme. Let's get out of here. We got a long night ahead of us. Number 5. There were a couple of guys having a real slow round of golf because the two ladies in front of them managed to hit into every bunker, every water hazard, and every piece of rough on the course. They never even waved the men through. Well, after 2 hours, one guy says to the other, I'm going to go ask those ladies if they'll let us play through. So he walks out to the fairway, gets about halfway down to the ladies, and he stops, turns around, and comes back. I can't do it, he says. One of those women is my wife, and the other one's my girlfriend. You're going to have to go ask them if we can play through. So the second guy walks towards the ladies, and he gets about halfway there, and just as his buddy did, he turns around and walks back, and looks up with a smile and says, I'm sorry, pal, but I got the same problem you do. Number 4. There was a lady who was finishing up a round of golf. She made her way back to the clubhouse after the last hole and saw a squad car parked nearby. Well, as she got closer, she saw a police officer who stopped and talked to her. Officer says, ma'am, did you tee off from the 15th tee about a half hour ago? Well, yeah, I did. Did you hook your ball over those trees over there? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I did, she said. What's this about? Well, with a little bit of anger in his voice, the officer said, your ball sailed out onto the highway, cracked the windshield of a lady's car. She couldn't see where she was going. She ran into a fire truck. The fire truck couldn't get to the fire, and a house burned down. What are you going to do about it? Well, the lady thought for a second, picked up her driver, and says, I think I'm going to open my stance a little bit and move my thumb around further. Number 3. There was a guy playing on a new golf course, and he got confused as to what hole he was on. He saw a lady playing ahead of him, so he walked up to her and asked if she knew what hole he was on. Well, she says, well, I'm on the 7th hole, and you're a hole behind me, so you must be on the 6th hole. So he thanked her and went back to golf. Well, on the back 9, same thing happened. He approached the lady with the same question. She says, well, I'm on the 14th, so you're a hole behind me. You must be on the 13th. Once again, he thanked her. He finished up the round and went in the clubhouse and saw the lady sitting at the end of the bar. He went up to her and says, let me buy you a drink to show you my appreciation for your help. He started a conversation and asked her what kind of work she did. Well, she said she was in sales, and he was in sales too. So he says, what do you sell? She says, if I tell you, you're only gonna laugh. I won't, he said, I promise. Well, she said, I sell tampons. With that, the guy just burst into huge laughter. She said, "See, I knew you would laugh." "That's not what I'm laughing at," he said. "I'm a toilet paper salesman, so I'm still one hole behind you." Number 2. There was a guy who was on vacation at a fancy golf resort, but he came to find out the rate for the room and golf was $200 a day. So he packed up his stuff and made his way across the street to another beautiful resort, had room and golf rates for only $50 a day. Well, the next morning he went down to the golf course and asked the golf pro to sell him a couple of golf balls for the round. "Well, sure thing," says the golf pro. "That'll be $75 per ball. How many do you want?" "What?" said the guy. $75 a ball? Across the street, the golf balls are only $1 each." "Ah," golf pro says, "here's the thing. Over there, they get you by the room. Over here, we get you by the..." Number 1. There was a pretty lady walking down the road with 2 garbage bags dragged behind her. Well, one of the bags was ripped open, and every once in a while a $20 bill would fall out on the sidewalk. Well, a policeman stops her and says, "Ma'am, there's $20 bills falling out of that bag." "Oh, really?" she says. "Well, I better go back and see if I can find them. Thanks for telling me, officer." "Well, not so fast," said the cop. "Where'd you get all that money? You didn't steal it, did you?" "Oh, no," said the lady. "You see, my backyard's right up next to the golf course, and a lot of the golfers come through and they'll pee through a knot hole in the fence right into my flower garden. Used to really make me mad. Kills the flowers, you know. Well, then I thought, why don't I make the best of it? So now I just stand behind the fence, right by the knot hole, real quiet with my hedge clippers. Well, every time some guy sticks his thing through the fence, I surprise him, grab a hold of it, and I say, 'Okay, buddy, give me $20 or off it comes.'" Well, the cop laughs and says, "Well, I guess that seems fair. By the way, what's in the other bag?" Well, the lady says, "Well, not everybody pays." Hey everybody, it's your old pal Eddie here. Which one of these was your favorite? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.